feel the strain. He's seen the banners tearing apart. Fingers pointing blame with a hollow heart. No more silence, the mission's stark. He lights a match in the growing dark. From Gettysburg to the neon haze, he strides the highways through a fiery maze. With his words, he cuts through the crowd.
Well, good evening. Good evening. Good evening. How are we, everyone? Good to see you. Good to see you, K2, Mr. Nuxus, Isaiah. Good to see you all. Happy to have you in. Gorilla Biscuits, good to see you. All right, so I wasn't completely sure what I was going to do tonight. I'm sure anybody who's in the Discord knows. Been fighting my own body a little bit, so long story short, last few days I was gonna go live and didn't, so sometimes it puts me down a bit. So I'm here today, and I'm not super high energy. I'm a little bit beat, and a little bit brain foggy, but that doesn't mean I can't be here with you guys. So I'm sorry, I have missed you. I have missed being on, but I'm here now. So I was thinking tonight we could review a little bit of some of the recent Piers Morgan panels, interviews, whatever you want to call them, and then we can, if I'm going to set a goal, it's not going to be a crazy goal, but I'm going to set a goal, and if we can reach the goal before we end the reviews, maybe I will open us up to a little bit of open panel for a bit. Like I said, I'm not super high energy right now, but I still want to spend time with you guys, so I don't think you ruined the chat. Silly. But anyhow, we'll do this. Do that. And we'll do... see if we can make that goal. And we'll go from there. So, let's see. I haven't used StreamYard in a bit. The last several streams I've done have been on OBS as well. I primed it a little bit earlier today to see if I could go to multi-channel or single channel on my OBS, and for some reason it kept trying to make it go to this channel and my other channel and all my side stuff, like my kick. And thank you, Nuxus. I really appreciate it. Kept trying to make it link to everything rather than just what I was trying to do, which was I was trying to see if I could play games. Oh, thank you, Gorilla Biscuits. I appreciate both of you so much, Nuxus and Gorilla Biscuits. I was trying to see if I could get it to go just to my Dark Abe channel so that I could like play some games but still stream some, start growing that channel a little bit for just side stuff, not so much the big crazy conversations and the fighting and all of that stuff. I decided that I'd like to be able to have a side channel that's just for goofing off stuff. This one's nice because we can have open conversations, can have lots of people on. It can be fun and it can be goofy, but it could also be like politically charged or religiously charged or however. Welcome in, Hornet. And so I tried to figure out how to get that all in line. Jeez. Thank you, K2. I am putting Bud Light sponsored... Oh, Bud Light sponsor Kieran in his comment section We need him to get the sponsorship because his channel's. Oh, that's funny. That would be so funny if he did actually get a sponsorship because of that, K2. I would laugh my ass off. I would laugh so hard if freaking Kieran goes live and the next time we see him, he's like, I've been sponsored by Bud Light. All I'm going to drink on stream from now on is Bud Light. That would be so freaking funny. I would laugh. I would laugh. Especially after all the fighting against it that he's done. Okay, so the first thing I was going to do was review some of these recent Piers Morgan panels. I guess they're panels, right? They do what we do, only in a bigger level, right? He's having some people that are known on a panel to talk about a topic. It's the same kind of idea that we do, just at a bigger level, right? So, the first one that I have up is The World Has Woken Up, October 7th, 2 years on. And it's got Mehdi Hassan in it. So, I figured we could watch that, and if we can reach the goal, which we're already most of the way there, if we can finish that goal off, then I'll open it up to a panel, and we can do some panel talk as well. I'm not going to stop a whole bunch and comment a ton along the way. I'm probably going to watch decent-sized portions of it and then comment. I don't even know how much I'm going to have to say because I haven't fully watched this interaction yet. So we'll see how it goes. I know that this is an extremely politically charged topic, right? The Israel, Gaza, all of that is very, very politically charged. But it'd be good to at least watch and see what people are saying. If we want to talk about stuff that's completely not got to do with this, that's fine too. I just wanted to start with something fairly chill. Thank you, Gorilla Biscuits. Thank you, K2. You guys are amazing. Did you guys just reach the goal already? Oh, one more. One more, and we will hit that goal. That's crazy. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, so we can go ahead and watch this chunk first, and then we will go from there. Hold on, let me double check that my stuff is all going, because I'm streaming to multiple things here. Oh my, what is that about? Goal! I can't do it like they do it. Thank you so much, everyone, for your donations. I just saw the Cash App as well. Thank you so much, you guys. I really, really appreciate it. Guys make it worth it for me to be here. You really do. Okay. At some point, I'll give you guys a rundown of why I'm jacked up, but for now, just know that sometimes I'm down and sometimes I'm fine. So it's just a cycle of overcoming. And so I'm here, you're here, let's do something, right? And now that we've reached the goal, that's amazing. Okay. Let's review this for a little bit and then I'll open this up. Unless you guys want me to open it up right away. You did just meet the goal right off the bat, so it's pretty freaking incredible. I'm going to do this. I'll set a new goal. This one doesn't have to be met. It's just like a open goal to help me out along the way, whoever else comes in here and is willing to help. I'll do this. There we go. There, now it's random and anybody can get it in. Okay. I see, K2, I see. Okay. It's not too laggy, is it? Right now? Noticing a little bit of lag on the ticker, but it doesn't look like the flag is laggy. Is my voice good? Is I'm still clear and good? All right. Here we go.
Jonathan, let me
So
finish.
either stop saying
You
my
will be
name
remembered
and,
no differently than the
taunting, or I
officers
will
of the
respond.
Third Reich.
I know you rehearsed that line.
Oh,
I'm
come
sure you
on,
rehearsed
man.
that line, but it's really pitiful. And I'm a bit insulted that that is what you've come up with against me. Really?
It's not offensive at all. If you want to not be compared to Nazis, stop acting like Nazis. It's very simple.
I think you're consumed
No, you
by
are,
hatred
my
and
friend.
the fact that
You-
in
the world has
beginning,
woken
when-
up, my friend. The
when
world has
Piers-
woken up.
Prime Minister Netanyahu is going to be remembered as
Wow.
the Churchill that saved not only Israel from radical Islam,
Atlantis.
but also Western civilization.
She's a self-described Zionist fanatic, someone who has a long history of being a pro-Israel ideologue, who just ran a piece saying the starvation in Gaza is fake. That level of bias being brought to 60 Minutes, to CBS, I think there'll be a lot more censorship of Palestinian voices than there already is.
It's now 2 years since Hamas breached the Israeli border and unleashed pure hell. The terrorists inflicted suffering and atrocities which were previously unimaginable on victims who committed no crime. In the 24 bitter months that have followed, few can dispute that Israel's now done the same. War was inevitable. A response, as I've said many times, was justified. The same cannot be said of the starvation and civilian slaughter which has decimated Israel's international standing and brought anger and evil to our streets. A sickening attack on a synagogue in Manchester last week was followed quickly by an attack on a Sussex mosque. Hate-filled protests have routinely reached cities across the world. Anybody with a heart knows this can't go on. And the 2-year anniversary of October the 7th coincides with the biggest chance yet to finally bring this misery to an end. How close that end really is and how permanent that end will be are the subjects we're focusing on for the next hour, as well as the very real possibility, foreshadowed for so long, that an end to the war may be the beginning of the end for Netanyahu too. Well, joining me now is Zateo Editor-in-Chief and CEO Mehdi Hassan. Mehdi, great to have you back on Uncensored. It feels like an historic moment, not just because it's the second anniversary, but because there is a peace plan which is being taken very seriously by all sides, it would seem, and which you yourself have already conceded. There are parts of this plan that you approve of. So let's go through this. Tell me what you like and what you don't like about the plan.
Piers, appreciate you having me on. It's an important day, it's an important week, and it is an important plan if it can stop the violence. I just want to say one thing about your intro. You said Hamas breached Israel's border on October the 7th. Technically, Israel is the only country I know of that doesn't define its borders. It breached the fence, but Israel has never said whether it accepts that Gaza is not Israeli territory. It is actually Palestinian territory. And that comes to the plan itself, which is a plan that Donald Trump tried to get signed off with Arab governments, as you know, Piers. And then when he released it, Israel had made some edits. So it's not great to have a plan that's written by Tony Blair and Jared Kushner and edited by Benjamin Netanyahu. Clearly, it's not great for the Palestinians. But in a situation where there is a genocide going on, people like myself, we want an end to the fighting. I'm not Palestinian. Let me just be very clear. Palestinians get to decide what happens to their future, whether they fight, whether they cease fire, whether they sign a peace deal. That is up to the Palestinian people. But just looking at it from an analytical point of view, there are good things in the plan. An end to the fighting, top of them, a resumption of aid, a release of hostages and detainees on all sides. We all want that, right? An end to starvation, we hope. By the way, the plan says that if the plan is agreed, aid will be fully resumed, which is a concession, Piers. The aid hasn't been fully resumed,
Right.
unlike all the Israelis who've been on your show and told you, oh, aid, there's enough aid. Well, why does the plan say that aid has to go up then, has to be resumed? Anyways, park that for a moment. Those are the good things. End to violence, end to starvation, I hope, would be the good things. The bad things are that it's a very colonial plan. A lot of Palestinians have described it to me as colonial. Tony Blair and Donald Trump should have nothing to do with the running of Gaza. This plan puts them on some board of peace. I think you and I would agree that Tony Blair has been nothing but a disaster for the Middle East. To bring him back here is insanity. And of course, when you look at the plan itself, Piers, it's not a peace plan, because peace requires a settlement to the conflict. It requires justice for the Palestinian people. It requires an end to the occupation. This plan does not do that, right? Netanyahu himself has told the Israelis there's nothing in this plan that says statehood. There's a vague mention of it, Piers, where it says if the Palestinian Authority reforms itself, if Gaza's redeveloped, if Israel decides there's no resumption of terror, then there will be a pathway to peace and statehood. It's all very vague. It's very conditional. It doesn't deal with the core issue, which I've been telling you on your show for over a year now, is the occupation. Hamas is not the core issue. Hamas is a symptom of the core issue. The core issue is occupation. And this plan does nothing for that. It also leaves Israel in control of at least 20% of the territory, maybe a majority. I mean, Amit Segal, who's a journalist very close to Benjamin Netanyahu, he said over the weekend, this leaves Israel in control of the majority of the Strip as long as we want.
Do you agree with the general consensus that Hamas can play no part in any government going forward in either Gaza or the West Bank?
Hamas agrees to that, Piers. Hamas. So the difference between what Hamas has offered to Biden and Trump and what Trump has come up with, and this is where the big sticking point is, Hamas has always agreed to a hostage release deal, all for all, they call it. We'll release all the hostages if you release all the Palestinian detainees who you've illegally taken, including the ones since October the 7th, which are mentioned in this plan, thankfully. That's one thing they've always offered, and it's in this plan. The other thing they've always offered is we won't be part of government. Have an independent committee of Palestinian technocrats, independent, non-political folks, not from the PA, not from Hamas, not from Fatah. They agreed to that. Israeli negotiators have admitted they agreed to that. The Americans have admitted that. What's different in this deal is the demilitarization point, right? The Israelis added this in at the very late stage, which is you must give up all your weapons at the very beginning of this ceasefire.
Doesn't the issue with that become how trustworthy is the promise, right? Because yeah, you could make the promise and then put it in signed works, but if you can't trust that it's going to function the way that it should, then there becomes a whole other issue. Why would you make the deal if you can't trust that it's going to function the way that it should? I'm not saying that that's the case. I'm just saying that I think that is oftentimes a breakdown that we see in some of these negotiations. You see two sides making a deal, but nobody on one side of the deal is trusting that that deal is actually going to be honored in any way, or at the very least, it'll be honored in words and in agreement and in front of cameras, but the moment that the cameras aren't rolling and nobody's paying attention, it will no longer be honored in a way that's actually meaningful. So I think that is definitely an issue that I've seen in the past that we would have to be aware of going into these kinds of negotiations.
That's the sticking point, which Hamas in their statement on Friday, Piers, you saw, haven't signed up to. That's what they're going to be arguing about now in the coming days. But in terms of not being part of the government, Hamas already agreed to that, Piers. We could have had this deal under Biden. We could have had this deal in January when Trump came into office with his ceasefire that the Israelis then broke. This deal's been on the table, a version of it, for over a year and a half now. Matthew Miller, the former Biden State Department spokesman who you know, he said that. You know, that even there, Netanyahu came along and added poison pills. The Israelis have added poison pills throughout. Hostages' families, you've interviewed the families of hostages, I've interviewed the families of hostages. They've said it consistently, that we could have had a deal, but Netanyahu and Ben-Gvir Smotrich, they blocked it at every turn.
And it seems to me that one of the pivotal moments in changing the narrative here and speeding things up was the extraordinarily ill-advised attack on Doha by the Israelis when they were trying to take out the Hamas commanders as they were literally meeting to discuss the peace plan. And they failed in that mission. They killed a Qatari security serviceman in the process, along with other people who were not involved at all with Hamas. And the opprobrium that they got them, not just from the Middle East, where there was complete outrage, and in particular, obviously, in Qatar, but also from apparently President Trump, who blew up in a fury at Netanyahu. You know, it would be truly ironic if that act of, in my view, just completely indefensible, I mean, illogical to be honest with you, attack on Doha, if that turns out to be the catalyst for getting the deal done?
Yeah, so let me agree and disagree with you. I agree with you, Piers, that it was indefensible, and it would be ironic if that leads to some kind of end to the fighting. It's not illogical, though, Piers. I just want your viewers to understand. If you are an expansionist Israeli government, you don't want peace with the Palestinians. You don't want peace with the Lebanese. You don't want peace in the region. You want to keep expanding. Piers, you may have seen Benjamin Netanyahu recently said in an interview, he supports the idea of a greater Israel, which is a batshit crazy idea that some people used to say was a conspiracy theory on the Israeli far right. It was only mad people like Smotrich. The Prime Minister of Israel said recently in an interview, he supports the idea of greater Israel, which means taking territory from Syria and Lebanon, maybe Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and creating a greater Israel, even bigger than they already have illegally. So it's not illogical from that point of view that you wouldn't want to do a peace deal. They always kill the negotiators. Piers, I came on your show after they bombed Iran, and I told you about Ali Shamkhani, who was the main nuclear negotiator, who was negotiating with the Americans. Trump had shared a tweet praising his position, and Israel targeted him. They thought they killed him. Actually, he survived. But they always target negotiators. They killed, last year, they killed Hania in Tehran when he was leading the negotiations. They attacked, as you point out, in Doha, the Hamas negotiating team who were...
Okay, does that, I mean, that seems really odd to me, because if you're going to have a negotiator, why would your negotiator be one who's actually calling for, the destruction of the person they're supposed to be negotiating with, or pushing the rhetoric against who they're supposed to be negotiating with? If you're supposed to be negotiating with a people or a nation, and yet when you're not in that nation, you're attacking them with every fiber of who you are, and that's what you're putting out to the world, I don't know that that is the best method by which to negotiate. And I don't know if his claims stand true, but it seems like a strange, I don't know. And if it is true, then where's the insight? Where's the oversight? Where's the people looking into everything, So I would think that would be too big of an international issue for it to go unaddressed.
Meeting to discuss negotiations. Go back to 2012. They killed a guy called Ahmed Jabari from Hamas, who was in the middle of signing off on a permanent truce with Israel. They killed him. There's a long history of Israel undermining negotiations, ceasefires, truces. So it's not illogical, because they don't actually want peace. And Netanyahu in DC, Piers, you saw last week when Trump announces this deal, he says it's a great day in history. It'll bring, classic hyperbole and bombast from Trump. Netanyahu goes and does a video in Hebrew and says, hey, we got to win here. We're not leaving the strip. And then the guy behind the camera says, what about statehood? He goes, there's nothing for statehood in this plan. You remember what they used to say about Arafat, Piers? That he says one thing in Arabic and another thing in English. Netanyahu's the master of that. He tells the Western media in Trump what they want to hear in English, and then he tells his right-wing base and his cabinet in Hebrew, yeah, we're not going anywhere. This is not a peace deal.
It's Medicare annual enrollment, and people aged 64 and above should prepare to be bombarded with hundreds of phone calls and texts from agents for simply pushing the Medicare plans which pay them the most. This is one message you won't want to skip. Most Medicare plans change every year, and many just disappear. Even if you like your current Medicare plan, it's critical to look at the 2026 plans, or you risk losing the coverage you need. That's why you need to know about Chapter. They're independent, they don't work for the government or big insurance, and unlike others, they compare every plan nationwide. Year after year, millions of Americans end up stuck on the wrong Medicare plan for their needs, which means they're overpaying or undercovered. Chapter can review your options in less than 20 minutes. If you're on the right plan, they'll tell you. If you're not, they will help you switch. By doing this, Chapter has helped people to save an average of $1,100 a year. Click the link below.
I should skip ahead, but
take back control of your healthcare. Call Chapter today.
I don't even know.
910-708 Mitchell and the other.
There we go.
Let me play devil's advocate with Tony Blair for a moment, because I, as you know, opposed the Iraq War very vociferously, and I believe that was the beginning of the end of his tenure and reputation in the UK, certainly. But it's interesting to chart what's happened with him since he became a Middle East peace envoy. He's put an awful amount of hours and time and effort into trying to resolve a difficulty over there. And all right, it's like putting the fox in the hen coop. I totally get all that. I do remember having a long conversation with him before I went to interview Netanyahu for CNN, where his understanding of the conflict and the difficulty.
So I would agree with that, Nuke. I think there's a level of outreach, if you want to call it that the U.S. does that I think is over the top. It actually reminds me of things like, the Iron Man movie, where he's like producing weapons grade stuff and da 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 da, and realizes who all is it's going to and how many lives are being lost because of the things he's producing. And it's like, I think the American people are realizing more and more every day, or there's huge amounts of us that already know this, but that we are the primary producer of many of the things that are allowing large-scale conflicts to happen, or to continue, or for mass loss of life to happen. And we should pull back from those types of things. We absolutely should not be giving and funding, especially if the countries we are giving aid to through those means aren't following what we want for the world. If we don't want what they're doing, we should stop supplying, period. Even if it is an income-based thing for the United States. If it harms our global relations or our national relations with other nations, then we should stop it. And I think we should be mindful of that, far more mindful than we have been. And I think the more that the people of the United States understand that, the better we will be. In fact, I think that we should be that well-educated populace that we are supposed to be, because we lack that in crazy ways today. We don't understand, the American people don't understand basic civics. They don't understand a whole lot of things. They don't understand the markets. They don't, like, if we could educate better on these things, I think we as a nation would do far better. I had somebody bring it up to me the other day that, and they're a friend, they brought up that they don't like how much the infighting of American people has become, the divide between people because of parties, even when those people have no idea why they're against the other side. They only know that the other side is bad because they've been told repeatedly that they're bad. And then they'll be given small examples, right? Little things like, oh, they don't want health care for people. They don't want this for people. That side is okay with the taking of lives of babies. Like, all these things, and it'll be the one small thing. And that's the only thing that they hold on to as the animus between the two. And I think there is a ground in conservatism that everyone could find acceptable in most cases. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of people in the middle right now that are at each other's throats, or don't understand why people are at each other's throats. And so they're like sitting there like, I don't know why the sides are so against each other at this point. And if people could understand what's going on better, that would be helpful. Especially when they're everyday Joe Schmo, doesn't have a lot of time to watch news, to pay attention to what's going on all the time in our world. These people, they go to work, they do their 9 to 5s, they come home, and they're like, I don't know why everything's so inflamed. I don't know why everybody's at each other's throats. I don't know. And those people, I think that we should all be reaching out. And the other thing too is, I see this too much today as well. I see both sides of media amplifying everything fairly consistently. Like, if one side says something, yeah. See, I've had to do the same before. Never lucky. I've literally had to do the exact same thing, even in video games, banning it. Because of the fighting that happens. But it's not even on a level where everybody who's fighting about it understands what they're fighting about. They're just going at each other because they are on the opposite side. It's a tribal fight rather than an actual idea fight or a fight of values. And I think that if we can get to the core values of things, that will help significantly. If we could argue why these values hold rather than why your idea is wrong, that would help some. Oh man, K2. I think in some cases it would be best to just take our hands off of things. I don't know. There's a lot to that. There's a crap load of history. There's a crap load of things that could take place or might take place, and the after effects could hit everyone. I think that I am a conservative Christian man, and I believe the way that I believe is the right way, or the best way. And I wish that people could communicate clearly and effectively without becoming so angry and charged that they act stupid because of it. Like just screaming and acting a fool. And I think that that's become so okay in our modern world that it doesn't ever allow for real conversation to happen, which is really sad. So, all right. Anyway, I'm going to keep going with this. Sorry, that was a weird side tangent, random.
And the problems, everything was extraordinary. There's no doubt about that. And I'm also reminded of what he achieved in Northern Ireland, which was another seemingly intractable problem between the Protestants and the IRA, and no one thought it could ever be resolved. And Blair put the hours in, worked with Clinton, worked with Mitchell and the others, and they finally got a deal done. You know, sometimes, you know, and in that deal, of course, Martin McGuinness and Jerry Adams, who'd been, you know, senior IRA figures, became, you know, senior politicians. So there's a kind of, you know, there's a background here which I think has to be taken in totality. Is it completely insane that somebody like him can form a group which at least supervise the transition, potentially, hopefully, to a place where Palestine gets a recognizable state of its own?
So, big picture, I think the entire idea of Trump, Blair, anyone else on this board is insane. The whole problem with Palestine is it's a legacy of colonialism. We don't need more Western colonialism. We need more self-determination. If you want to bring in local Arab countries, fine. Even that will be problematic. And Gaza on a map if his life depended on it. And Tony Blair, let me deal with Blair specifically. So, obviously, you and I opposed the Iraq War. It was a disaster. He lied. It wasn't just a mistake. It was a war crime. Tony Blair should be heading to The Hague, not to Gaza. I wrote a piece for Zeteo laying out the case against Blair being involved in the future of Gaza. People can read it at zeteo.com. I will just be very brief and say this. He has hundreds of thousands of Arabs' blood on his hands. The idea that you would go to Gaza, where Arabs are being killed for the last 2 years, and that Blair, of all people, has any credibility with the Palestinian people. I've not met a single Palestinian who views him as anything other than a war criminal. And even if you put Iraq to one side, you mentioned his Middle East envoy role for the quartet between 2007 and 2015. It was a complete failure. Everyone agrees it was a failure. Go back and read the Financial Times editorial the day he resigned. They said it was a complete failure. He got nothing done. He was seen as just a proxy for the Israelis. He would say whatever the Israelis wanted. And leads me to my last point. You rightly raised Northern Ireland. The reason he succeeded with Mo Mowlam and Clinton and Jonathan Powell and others in Northern Ireland is because Britain ended up being a fair broker. Both sides could trust them. Of course, both sides had their criticisms, the Unionists and the Sinn Féin side especially. But ultimately, Britain was trying to bring that, never applied that logic to the Middle East. Blair doesn't see Palestinians as equal to Israel. He is self-confessed a pro-Israel guy. This is the problem with all Western interventions when it comes to Palestine. They're never neutral brokers. The United States is not an impartial negotiator. To quote Aaron David Miller, a former Clinton negotiator, we are Israel's lawyer. That is what the US is. That is what the West is. That is certainly what Tony Blair is. So yeah, he doesn't have any credibility. And by the way, don't even get me started on the conflicts of interest. The guy makes money from deals every time he's in the Middle East. Him and Jared Kushner have no credibility. They're both making money on side deals in the Middle East while they're trying to bring supposedly peace and redevelopment to Gaza. Zero credibility, Piers. He'll end in tears.
Talking of people making a lot of money, Barry Weiss, formerly of the New York Times, has just sold her free press business of just 4 years standing to Paramount. David Ellison.
That sounded like a goofy equivocation, because it'll end in tears. Tell me, in which situation does it not end in tears? Hello, Barefoot, Saint, Red Door Woman, all of the new joiners. Good to see you all. I mean, it's going to end in tears either way. I don't know how else it ends, because no one's going to be happy no matter which way this thing ever goes. There's always going to be a disaffected group, whether it's a large disaffected group, a small disaffected group, an offshoot disaffected group. There's always one, at least one, I would say. So it's a silly statement to make in the first place, and then I kind of agree with you, Mr. Mister, earlier when you said on the colonization thing. It's like everything about that colonizers mentality of things, and I don't know all the depths of all of this, but it seems over the top to me, and it's really hard to get a good tack of a good full understanding of things because of the information fog, so to speak, that happens with all of these types of things, especially in these regions where it becomes nearly impossible to know the truth about things. So, yeah. Anyhow.
Has bought it, the new boss of Paramount, and she's been put in charge of CBS News. Some people on the pro-Palestinian side are very concerned because she has obviously very pro-Israeli history. Are you concerned, or are you also, given that you and I and others have made a similar leap into the brave world of individuals running their own kind of media entities, and she's obviously a massive success story in a very rapid period of time. What do you make of what's happened with Barry Weiss and the Free Press? And are you concerned about maybe whatever influence she may have on CBS News?
Yeah. No, I'm very concerned, and sorry to do a second plug for Zete. I don't normally do this, but we just ran a big piece last night from my colleague Prem Taggar talking to insiders at CBS News who make the point that some of the stuff that Barry Weiss ran at the Free Press wouldn't even meet CBS editorial standards.
Thank you, Bob.
Fired at CBS running that stuff. CBS News it's not perfect. I have many criticisms of CBS News, like you do of all mainstream media, but they just ran a very good investigation last week, Piers, about how Israel bombed the flotilla in Tunisia, even denying it was them, but they spoke to US intelligence and showed that actually Netanyahu signed off on a drone strike on the flotilla. Is that the kind of story that Barry Weiss would publish under her reign at CBS News? She is a self-described, Zionist fanatic, right? The idea that a quote-unquote neutral media organization is led by someone who has a long history of being a pro-Israel ideologue, who has a history of trying to censor Palestinian voices when she was at university, who just ran a piece saying the starvation in Gaza is fake. It's not true. Nobody's starving in Gaza. That level of editorial standards, that level of bias being brought to 60 Minutes, to CBS, is really worrying. And you and I, you do a show called Piers Uncensored. I think there'll be a lot more censorship of Palestinian voices than there already is now at CBS News with her in charge. David Ellison, the guy who's hired her, the son of Larry Ellison. Again, the Ellison family is very, very pro-Israel. Larry Ellison is the biggest single private donor to the Israeli military, to Friends of IDF. They've made very clear what their biases are. They've made very clear why they're hiring her. They've made very clear why they're buying TikTok. Because as you said in the introduction, Piers, public opinion is turning against Israel. So these folks are doubling down on messaging, doubling down on trying to control what we see and hear online and on TV. So it's very worrying for those of us who believe in free speech.
Well, let's see. I give her the benefit of the doubt. I tweeted her today to congratulate her on an amazing deal. Whatever people think, it's an amazing turnaround.
I mean, you and I know it's not worth 150. You and I both know it's not worth 150 million dollars. That is the Ellisons taking care of that.
Maybe you and I should absolutely pray that these businesses are worth that much in such a short period of time, because then you and I will be laughing all the way to the bank. But no,
Inshallah.
I do remember her being kind of forced out of the New York Times by the woke mob, and I
don't know why it's being choppy. That's weird.
It's not really. But anyway,
yes.
I like always. I'll give her the benefit of the doubt until she ever proves me wrong. So we'll see. I think it's going to be a hell of a roller coaster ride with her in charge of CBS News. And honestly, if I'm honest about it, I think mainstream media in America, the mainstream news media in particular, stick up its ass for a long time. And it's about time that stick got broken and they got brought into the real world. And it'll be interesting to see what happens.
She's not the solution. I agree with you about the stick in the ass. She is not the solution.
We shall see. Mehdi, great to have you back on Uncensored, always. Well, joining me now is Hanania.
It might be.
Digital aid to Israeli Prime Minister.
Hold on a sec.
Welcome to Uncensored, Mr. Naftali. We're just talking to Mehdi Hassan there. He's concerned about something that's very much in your wheelhouse, about the influence, as he puts it, from David Ellison, who's now running Paramount, the appointment of Barry Weiss now to run CBS News, and the purchase of her free press business and so on. Conversations with David Ellison, with Barry Weiss, that could allay those concerns?
I didn't have any conversation with Barry Weiss in particular, but I listened to the interview and I have to say it almost sounds from listening to Mehdi Hassan that being pro-Israel is a curse. So, I would just like to make it very clear. I'm proud to be pro-Israel. I'm proud to be Zionist, and I think that there's nothing to be ashamed of that. Israel is actually at the forefront of fighting for the sake of Western civilization, and there's nothing to be ashamed of that. But on top of that, I have to say that the fact that Mehdi at least, raised serious concerns about one media outlet that's been relatively pro-Israel in, the way I see it, in a world full of anti-Israel mainstream media. That's actually a blessing to have, for once, an outlet.
Hey, what does that actually involve? What do you actually do? Today's show is brought to you by Oxford Natural.
So better.
Of the Optimum Day and Optimum Night.
Still choppy, huh?
Natural supplements. Thousands of Brits and
Hold
Americans are already taking them with incredible results. Optimum Day is designed to boost your energy and support weight loss.
Let's do this. Okay. I'm going to test this real quick here. Going to remove that from stage and see if I'm still choppy. Am I choppy? You tell me. It looks like it is a little bit choppy. It makes me wonder, because I've wondered if StreamYard is having the issues. On the StreamYard end, there's no choppiness whatsoever, but then when it's on YouTube, I'm watching it and I see it choppy. And I'm like, okay, what's going on that's causing that? So then I'll close out a whole bunch of stuff on the PC to see if the choppiness goes down some. But it seems that it's a connection between StreamYard and YouTube, not the connection between my PC and StreamYard or YouTube. So if it continues to be choppy, the only thing I can think of is to open a completely new stream and raid over to the new stream and see if that fixes it. Because there's a possibility it will. I don't know. I wonder. Well, let's see, I guess. Yeah, I'll just open a new StreamYard and I will start a different stream. And we'll see if we can fix this. Sorry, folks. Okay. Customize, create streams. Okay, give me a second, ladies and gents, and I will rate this over. Enter studio. Go live. Okay, now let me go into my settings here real quick. I can't believe it's so choppy. That's so stupid. I don't know why it does that crap. Alright. This is the one. Let's customize. Redirect to chill night. There. Okay. Add to stage. Okay, so I've created the second stream. It looks like it's set to raid to it. Good. All right. Cool. Okay. And JB, you're on the other side. JB, on the other side, does it look choppy still on that one as well, or does it seem less so? Out of curiosity, because now I'd like to make sure that it's not going to... No chop. Okay, good. All right, I'm going to end the first one. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to do anything. It should raid straight over there, and I'll just keep going from the other. So, here we go.